Hey, welcome to another edition of Think Your Way to an Epic Life. And today I'm on the hot seat, so things are changed around a little bit. I get to introduce you to someone who I respect very, very greatly. He recruited me to Keller Williams over 2 years ago. His title has changed a little bit. I'm going to let him tell you because I know it's vice president of something, but I'll mess it up. So it's Jake Henson, and he has agreed to interview me so you guys can kind of get to know who I am because I get to be the one always asking the questions. So Jake, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. I am Jake Henson with Keller Williams Realty. I'm the vice president of development.
That's what
I've been working with Keller Williams for 10 years. Over that time frame, I've gone anywhere from finance to operations to now working in a consulting realm for building top businesses. So I'm very excited to be able to talk to you today. I remember our journey a long time ago whenever we first met and started talking about Keller Williams. So I kind of want to start there is, what did you see coming from the world that you were in? What did you see was the opportunity coming toward Keller Williams and actually meeting with me the 6 and 7 times that it took?
It is a funny story because as you interviewed me, it really, everything that you said, it just sounded way too good to be true. Like there's no way a big company, we've got 320 agents, I believe. Mm-hmm. There's no way a company with 320 agents can have the culture that you told me that we would have if I came here. Like it's not possible. And so that's the reason it took me so long. I have since realized that it was even better than what you told me. There's no way you could describe the culture here at KW, especially in your market center. So what was the question?
So what you experienced previously and then coming to Keller Williams, what was that? I guess, what was the opportunity that you saw? Well,
for me, the opportunity was that you were recruiting me not just for my team, Casa Dream Team, to come over to Keller Williams, but you were recruiting me as a coach, as a personal one-on-one coach. And that really appealed to me. It's something that, I've studied personal development for over 30 years. And when you know something really well, you really want to tell other people about it. You want to help them. So that was the hook that reeled me in.
Okay. All right. So let's get back up a little bit. We talked about my lack of ability to describe our culture. So I want to hear from you, what makes business culture, relevant? What makes the culture that we kind of have in the office special? And then how do you personally bring that culture to the world and to the team to be able to affect those, clients that you have and ultimately, spouses and everything else?
Okay. Can you repeat the first part of the question? Because there was a lot there.
Yes. So first part of the question would be, what do you see? How do you describe what culture is? What are good cultures and how do companies build them, and how do you kind of sustain that?
Okay, so I this is a little embarrassing because I owned a Remax, and I would say our culture was really, really good. It was the best culture I had ever seen until I came here. And when I came here, the difference in the culture with here and the Remax and the Coldwell Banker before that, 9 years at each of them, is everyone here, of course not everyone. I'm sure there are people that don't partake, right? That don't come into the office, that don't do all the things that we do. But I would say the training and coaching that we all get at Keller Williams and that we're all open to. We're all open to anyone saying, hey, maybe you could do it this way. And it's never taken as you're trying to put me down. It's always like, oh, that's a good idea. Let me help lift you up. So the culture in this office is, I as a coach, this is like a total aside, but it's on this question. As a coach, I've hired a virtual assistant. And so she sits in on all of my coaching calls and takes notes and then sends them to my clients. And she told me at one point, it's just crazy to me because you say I love you to so many of those people. And I thought, yeah, I guess that does sound pretty weird to her. But that's very common in Keller Williams. It's very common to have somebody say, I love you, and you're doing a great job, and I appreciate you. And there's laughter in the hallways, and there's excitement, and there's huge producers, people who are making over $1 million a year that are in the hallway that will stop and talk to you and tell you, oh yeah, here's how I did this, and here's how I did that. And it's just a culture of success. And how do I pass that on to Casa Dream Team? Well, education. We're Kristen and I who run Casa Dream Team. I've done Bold twice. I've actually done Bold twice, so I'm going to Bold a third time. That's Keller Williams kind of. What would you say about Bold? Who would you describe it? And can someone who's not with Keller Williams come to it?
Absolutely. Bold is just simply an intensive sales training. It's an 8-week program, 1 day a week from 9 to 2, and essentially you move through the steps of successfully building a lead generation pipeline. And it shows you different skill sets. It's kind of an exploration, shows you different skill sets that you can have, and things to explore, and maybe places where you might be uncomfortable. And it kind of really pushes you into that growth mode to say, well, this might be something I can add into my business, or something that I never knew about, that can, truly boost the business. So I look at it as just an 8-week intensive sales training that truly gets someone into an exploration mode and growth mode inside of their business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, growth mode is what it's about. And so Kristen and I are taking that together. We're going to go to Mega Camp coming up in August. I'm sure you're going to be there.
Yep.
Okay.
Every year.
don't ever miss it. We went to family reunion together. It's one of the things that before I came to KW, I was very much into going to seminars and learning as much as I can. However, now that I'm at KW and I'm watching the very top of the top are always at those events, always. And modeling is something I learned from Tony Robbins. Instead of trying to recreate the wheel, if someone is incredibly successful, model what they do and you'll get where they got. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what Keller Williams is all about, is models.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, part of what we're kind of going back to, we take a step back toward culture. Part of the things that I've seen over my years at Keller Williams, and I think we see this across many top producers, when you attend those events like Bold and Mega Camp and those kind of things, you start to speak a different language and you think differently than other people. How does that affect, ultimately we want to be able to share in this culture and be in alignment with these things. How does that affect you personally, in your personal life, with your spouse, with kids, with family members? Because a lot of times I find that my family doesn't understand the way I think anymore because I've grown into something new. Yeah.
For me, it was as if, I know this is going to sound really dorky, but I don't care. It was as if my tribe came and found me, because I was already so into personal development and growth and learning. And I knew there had to be other people out there, because the books sell, the tapes sell, people are listening to the podcast. They had to be somewhere, and I couldn't find them until I came here. And it's like, this is where you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. And around here, you can pretty much pick from a plethora of people that are going to help you grow. Mm-hmm. You can learn from everyone here. In my family, here's just to give you, it's really hard to describe culture. I wasn't picking on you. It's really hard to describe culture. My husband and I were having a conversation, and it's probably been 6 months ago, and he was talking about things and I was talking about things, and he said, babe, I never found my Keller Williams. He's retired now. His career's done, and he never found a place like this. And, I'm not a spring chicken, and I had never found a place like this either. So this sounds like a commercial for KW, and that was not at all the intent, but that's how we are. Mm-hmm. One of my clients is coming in this weekend from Tyler to just hang out. Her and her husband are going to come and hang out, and we're going to do a podcast with them. He's an FBI agent, and she's a massive, massive producer. And it's like it's like the family that you choose, not the family that you were born into.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said about, the 5 people that you hang around. And we hear inside of what we call Quantum Leap in Keller Williams. And outside of that, there are obviously tons of books and things written about this subject. But, we think about this in the form of like gardens, right? So like my physical garden of my life, my professional garden, my, love garden, my financial garden, and, surrounding yourself with 5 people in all of those gardens to be able to truly build the way that you want to build. So let's talk a little bit deeper about that. So we talked a little bit about culture and how that affects the family, how that affects everything else. How do you go about building those gardens and eliminating people from your life that are not beneficial? Specifically, what does that conversation look like, and how do you view that kind of conversation?
I'm glad you asked that, because that's got to be the hardest thing about growth. Is we have what's called homeostasis, where we want to go back to what we know, not necessarily what's comfortable. A child who's abused wants to go back to their parents who abused them. A lady who's abused, or a man in these cases, look at Johnny Depp. A lot of times that's what's comfortable. However, I hate saying it this way, but when you outgrow people, for me, I don't ever eliminate relationships. There are some people that I can do 1 minute with. There are some people I can do 10 minutes with, and there are some people I can go on vacation with. And that's kind of how I handle it. Is I don't give my energy where it's going to be wasted.
Mm-hmm. So you try and eliminate kind of the idea of like takers, of the book Give and Take, takers from your world, or what's the mindset around this person's not right for me, or this person isn't helping me in this arena? How do you choose what arena they actually fit into?
Oh, it's a balancing act, because relationships are so important. People need people. And if you think you don't, you're just wrong. You think about anything in your life where you've gone from here to here, and 90% of the time, if not better, it's going to be because you knew someone who helped you get from here to here. And so relationships are very important, and I don't really believe in burning bridges unless it's pretty severe. And then I have no problem whatsoever eliminating a relationship that is hurtful to me or someone that I care about. If you can't change people. And so when I lessen my time with people, they're either going to grow to come back, or they're just going to be somebody that I'm there and they're there, and we just don't spend time together anymore. That's another thing about Keller Williams, is you're pretty busy. You're a pretty busy person. You can't be as successful as a lot of KW agents are and have a whole lot of free time to just hang out with someone who's not beneficial or even is detrimental.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So being that you are so busy, I know that we all are very busy. Being that you are so busy, how do you manage time? What makes you keep going every day?
That is another Keller Williams-ism, that we have this language that people go, what is that? But it's time blocking. And time blocking is incredibly important. I would say the most important part of anyone's day is their mornings, when they first get up. So Miracle Morning has been talked about a lot on this podcast already, so I don't want to bore everybody with it, but go get the book, for goodness sakes. It's amazing. And so my mornings are blocked out. And then I consider it like bookends. I've got my mornings, and then I've got my evenings that I can block out, and those are mine, and I have everything scheduled and planned for those. The middle of the day, I block out things that we need to do for our business. You block those things out. However, the reality in real estate is you really don't know what your day is going to hold. If you have 10 listings, you may get 5 offers on one listing that day. And so you have no idea what is happening, what's going on, you have to be able to, I mean, I can't imagine you with 320 of us needing a little chirping birds, You just have to fully be where you are when you're there. Right now, I'm not thinking about the business or the transactions that are going on or my coaching clients or any of that. I'm here with you. And that's pretty much, I think if you take care of your right now, your whole life will come into play perfectly.
Okay. So we talked about whenever you first came to Keller Williams and we started our coaching sessions, we talked a little bit about being fully present and this idea of jumping between things, having computers in front of you and phones and all of those kind of things. How do you become fully present now?
It's a choice. It's a decision. Decision means to cut off from. There is no other option. And so it's a choice. It's easy. It's very easy for me to be fully present with a person, any person, every person. When I'm with you, you will know I am with you. I've given you my 100% focus. The where I have challenges is the paperwork and the details, all the details, which is why I have Kristen. So she handles so much of the detail work for me, and I'm much more of a relational piece of our team.
Okay. So you're an avid learner, and I know that you like to seek out many ideas, and you like to read a lot of books and go to conferences and do all those kind of things. What was the most influential thing that you ever read in your life that really changed the way that you think and perceive the world?
Well, it's actually this is going to date me horribly, but it was actually cassette tapes, and it was Tony Robbins' 30-Day Personal Power. And at the time, I had just left my first husband, and he bought off of nighttime TV, this, big guy with the big teeth did the things, and he bought it. And I had to go back to our house because it was $300 back then. I mean, that was, I don't know how many years ago, well over 30 years ago. And it was $300. And so I didn't have $300. And so I would go over every day and I would start taking notes. And this is probably shocking to anyone who knows me, but at the time I was a 2-pack-a-day smoker. And day 1 or day 2, he had you do all these exercises and write down the answers and ask you if there's something you need to change and you don't do it, what's it going to cost you? And if you do, what are the benefits? And I wrote all this stuff down in my own handwriting, and I read it. It was at night, and I read it, and I thought, that is so ridiculous that I'm doing that. That's so stupid. And I made a decision that night that the next morning when I got up, I would have 1 cigarette before I took my shower, and I would never touch them again. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you it was the easiest thing I've ever done. I had tried to quit countless times before then, but that series, I ended up pretty much memorizing it, and I actually prescribe it to a lot of my coaching clients. Not all of them. It's not what everybody needs, but it was what I needed at that time, and it absolutely took me from a trajectory of this way to that way.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more into personal lives.
Uh-oh.
We've had a lot of things happen in, the last 2 years.
Yes.
It's been pretty insane. I remember when, I woke up with Morgan and we weren't allowed to leave the house in New Mexico, right?
Yes.
And so there's been a lot, I think, of turmoil in people's lives. People start seeing, opportunities out there. They want to change careers. They want to, look at different avenues. The grass is always greener, right? As far as kind of your mapping of your life as you've moved through it, I know that you've had several different careers. You worked in Circle K with convenience stores, moving into real estate. What do you think is pivotal moments in your life that made those decisions happen? Was it external influence or internal influence that really made you decide, I'm going to go from doing this to building a big life in real estate, or I'm going to go from doing this to, building my career and actually viewing it as a career at a very young age?
It's funny. Jake is my coach. And as we were talking yesterday in our coaching session, and I had the realization that I don't go after things. If they're not brought to me, it's not going to happen, or it wasn't. I'm working on that. much like this podcast. If it was not for our executive director, Ben Gutierrez, who does such a great job, we wouldn't have a podcast, right? I wouldn't have been the driving force in this. When the way I got into real estate is kind of fun. I was selling timeshare in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I was driving, I live in the East Mountains, and so I was driving back and forth every day, and I was selling timeshare, and I was making incredible money. We were being spoiled rotten. My husband and I got to travel all over and stay in the finest places, and life was good. And when I went home. No one was calling me. No, it was great. I just had this great life. And then my boss came to me and he said, you were supposed to have had your real estate license this entire time. And I'm like, oh, great. And he said, it's okay, just go ahead and get it. And so I didn't care about it, but I was doing it correspondence while I was still working, and I got my real estate license. I didn't think a thing of it. And 2 weeks later, he came back and he said, we're shutting down this location and we're moving on. And there was no way I was going to move with them. So here I find myself with a real estate license and no job. Well, my husband had been telling me for probably about 8 or 9 years that you need to be in real estate. And I had this picture. It is so funny to me. I had this picture in my head of who a realtor was. And she had the bun on top of her head, and she had diamonds dripping off of every finger. And she was just this. And it's like, that's not who I am. And he said, no, you really need to get in real estate. And I denied it. And I thought, no, I fought that. But here I am, no job. And so he said, well, come on, let's just go to the information night. So Keller Williams, sorry, my bad. Coldwell Banker has an information night, or they used to. I don't know if they still do that. But they had an information night about real estate. And I agreed to go with him. I didn't even want to go. And so he went with me, and we're sitting through this presentation. And this was 20 years ago. And so prices have changed a lot. Please don't quote me on these numbers. And so they did all these numbers, and this is going to cost you for your license and your business cards and da-da-da, and they tell all this stuff. And at the end of it, it came out to like $1,500. And we walk out of my opinion has not changed one iota, not at all. And we walk out of there, and Stan was so excited. Oh my gosh, you're excited, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not at all excited. So the next day he leaves for work, and I am depressed. I'm feeling sorry for myself because I had this great job and I don't have one, and I have no idea what direction I'm supposed to go. And I said a prayer, and I said, I know I'm not supposed to test you, God, but if you want me to go into real estate, you're going to have to give me some kind of a sign, because this is not what I want to do. And about 30 minutes later, the phone rings, and I ignore it because I don't want to talk to anybody. And it was the company that I worked for, Shell Vacations Club. And they said, wanted to let you know, we just sent you your reserves, which is $1,510. And the hair on the back of my head, like so that I did it. I got into real estate kind of unwillingly. And I love everything about it now. So sometimes you have to take me kicking and screaming. I know you're taking notes for later.
Well, what brings you energy?
My good night's sleep, a really good, when I do what I'm supposed to do and I do my miracle morning, and probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done for a living is coaching. And and thank you all, each and every one of you, every time you do it, I get calls or texts or emails of appreciation from my clients almost daily. And it is so, you're a coach. I don't know, maybe it doesn't do the same thing for you as it does for me, but it's so incredible to just get to be a part of watching someone else's life completely change. I've got coaching clients that I've had for over 2 years now, and where they started and where they are, it's mind-boggling. And so I would say that brings me a lot of energy. My sweet doggie, Dottie, oh my gosh, my little Dalmatian, I love her to pieces, and of course my husband.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about coaching. You just said changing people's lives. A lot of people are hesitant to get into coaching, and I believe it's because they don't understand what coaching is. So give us just a synopsis of, if I'm joining up for coaching, why and what is it?
It's so unique and it's so different for every single person. Coaching for one person is going to be completely different from another. I had one client who actually in a room, in a meeting, had nothing to do with coaching, in a room full of a lot of people, including Alice Tozer was in there. And she said, yeah, Kara really got on me today about this, or really gave me a hard, I can't remember how she said it, but like I was cracking the whip. And it stunned me that she would say that to someone, because I would never want anyone to know that somebody had to crack the whip on me. But she did, and but she received it so well. And that is so rare in my coaching. I will tell you that almost never happens. There are times though when you need to stun somebody out of where they're at. They're just oblivious to it. Coaching is helping you discover. You, not me. I don't have all the answers. It's helping you discover within yourself what it is you want, what you really, really want, not what you think you want, not what you've told everybody that you want. Oh, I want a yellow Mustang with a convertible yellow Mustang. And then it's like, yeah, I really don't. Why did I say that? Or whatever it is. It's helping you really discover what you want, and then helping you figure out the steps that you need to take that are acceptable to you to get you there. Okay.
How do you do that? How do you avoid mistakes?
As a coach, or I don't know. That's a good question. How do you avoid mistakes? I guess I've never thought about it. I'm not worried about making mistakes, because it's not, well, there are some solid things that some principles that are solid that I can absolutely guarantee if you will do them, you will get these results. However, they're not going to be the same for every person. And so I can't make a mistake with you unless I'm coaching you as if you're Ben, or vice versa, because every person is an individual.
Okay. So we talked yesterday a little bit about, the fear of mistakes in your own life, and that, finding people that are true advocates for you and your world. And it sounds like, as a coach, you become that advocate for someone else.
Big time.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we talked a little bit about, and I hope that you had meditated on this somewhat. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about finding those advocates and what it means to give a referral. So I kind of want to expand on that a little bit. I'd like for just to hear from you, when a person comes to you and says, I need you to be my coach. I need you to be in my life, right? What is your immediate thought process? I'm coming to you and I need help. What are you looking at me and saying?
Well, the first step is I have you fill out an intake form. And that intake form in and of itself will help you, even if you never stepped into coaching, because it helps you assess where you really are. And so once I have that intake form, then I can kind of get an overview of where you are. And the next step is we do all of our coaching either on Zoom or in person, like across the table, like we are now. And I have to just ask a ton of questions. That's just really, that I find that if I go into a coaching call with a big agenda, it just doesn't work well, because that's my agenda. I need to find out, what do you need this week? Not here's what I want to talk to you about.
So you've completed this intake form, and now we've kind of jumped into it. In the Keller Williams world, we call that, description self-discovery. The idea of, clarity from oneself is really, we have the answer. We just kind of sometimes need someone's permission. So with that being said, do you really feel like in coaching you're teaching, educating, or is it really truly about viewing things and understanding more? Like what's the benefit there?
Benefit to the client.
Mm-hmm, to the client.
Well, there are times that it's teaching, because my clients I've been in real estate for 20 years. I've been an owner. I've been a qualifying broker. I've been a millionaire real estate producer, right? I've done all those things. And so I do have that history. And so part of the coaching is they have access to me, and they will call me all different times and days, not just on their coaching calls, and say, hey, I've got this really sticky deal. What do we do here? That's more of teaching and advice, like direct, here's your answer to that, because they don't have that answer inside their head. But most of the time, it's self-discovery, like you said. It's helping them discover and take, what does quantum mean? Little steps, right? Helping them take little steps, baby steps, which compound over time and help them become someone totally different than they were. Not that your core person isn't the same, not that your core values aren't the same. And see, because identity, I think, is the hardest thing for people to let go of. People are so tight because that's how I am. That's who I am, and you just have to accept who I am. Well, maybe, but maybe that's really, where did you get that belief? Did you grow up and decide on your own that you wanted to be a Democrat or a Republican or a Christian or a Buddhist? Probably not. You probably had those ideas put to you by your family, by your surroundings. And so coaching just it's all about you. That's the coolest part about coaching is it's all about you. Where else in your life is it all about you? We have to consider everyone else's feelings. In coaching, you don't have to think about any of those things. I mean, occasionally some of my clients will still get on the phone and say, or get on the Zoom and say, "How are you doing?" And my answer is always the same. "I'm doing great. We're not here to talk about me. We're here for you." And that, I think, is, I don't know, I think it's a pretty cool part.
Mm-hmm. It's powerful to be able to be there for somebody.
Yeah.
So let's talk about finding advocates in your life.
Okay.
So how do you find them? And how do you know that they're an advocate?
Oh, how do you find them? Well, for one thing, you found me. And so I feel like I've got countless advocates right here, right now. And how do I know they're advocates? Because they listen, they actually care. They show that they're putting my interests ahead of their own, like you have done on countless occasions in the short 2 years we've been together. You have proven to me over and over to where I never doubt when you say something that it's not because it's something that you think is good for you, but it's going to be terrible for me.
Okay. So it's someone that's always creating win-win situations for you. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about more in kind of the personal world, not so much the business world. How do you, if we're talking about, again, our gardens, right? We've got, your financial garden. Where do you go seek out advocates for that? Who would you suggest that I go and find to really feel like I can surround myself with 5 people that are going to increase my financial wealth or my financial understanding? What does that look like?
Well, for me, there's very few things that can come up that I can't point you to a book or a podcast. Very few. Not because I'm so brilliant, but because I'm not. And so I have to read all these things and do. So it's very rare that someone has a problem that I can't prescribe something that will really help them after coaching is done. However, I have no problem whatsoever in real estate or in any other area. And I'm really passionate about this, of saying, you know what? I don't know, but I will get you answers. That is one of the most annoying things to me in the world is a professional in any industry that will not tell you I don't know, because that's pretty scary. And I've had it happen repeatedly, and very high important people that are the very best in the world, and they don't know this or that or the other. Why not say what? I mean, wouldn't you feel more comfortable if your attorney said, "You know what, Jake, I don't know. I've never had that happen, but I'll find out." Mm-hmm. So please don't be afraid to do that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So what's my activity? If I'm going to finish this podcast today and I'm going to go out and I'm going to go do something, what's the activity that I need to do to be able to find 5 people, right, that I can really focus on in different gardens of my life? Let's say for me, it's physical, right? My physical shape. What am I going to do? Okay. What's my activity? So
let me ask you this. Out of the friends that you have, the people that you truly want to spend time with right now, they're already in your life. Are any of them doing some physical activity that is interesting to you? Are they rock climbing? Are they playing kickball?
Maybe. I think I've got one or two of those.
That's where I would start if I were you is, and this, I wish I could take this wisdom as much as I give in coaching. I also get so much from my coaching clients, and I wish I could take credit for this. This was Nick that came up with this, and Nick Patel in our office, and it was so brilliant. We just had a coaching call, and he did tell me I could share this because I said, Nick, you could write a book about this if you wanted to. This is brilliant. He said, you can share it. So what Nick is doing is accountability is number one. It's most important. You have to have accountability. You don't have to. Some people are very self-driven, but it really helps a lot, and it's a lot more fun if you have accountability. So what Nick has done is he's got me for accountability on a lot of things. He's got his incredible assistant, Alex, for accountability on making his phone calls every day to his people that he nurtures. He's got Robert Rickert, who is an amazing telemarketer. I mean, just absolutely incredible. And so they do call nights on every Tuesday. He's spending time with his friends, and he's having accountability. He's got another realtor, and I cannot remember his name, and I'm sorry, I don't know him, Adrian, I think, that is a rock climber. And so Nick is going to start rock climbing with him once a week. He's got his personal trainer, and he goes and gets trained with him, 3-4 times a week. So I think that is such a brilliant way of spending time with the people that you really want to be with when they're already at this level, at that one thing. They want, yeah, sure, come on. So that would be my advice.
Okay. So how do I find them? We use me as the example, right? Well, if I'm looking at my physical life, and I might have one friend, two friends that maybe go out and play golf or kickball or whatever else. How do I find more? If I need 5 to be like them, how do I go find them?
Well, you've got to put yourself in their environment. So, possibly joining a gym. Like, I would ask you, what of all the things that you could do physically, what would you enjoy doing the most?
I like playing golf every day.
Playing golf. Okay. So are you a member of a country club?
I am not.
It's a pretty good investment. Walter Bond, who's a speaker trainer, he was in the NBA, and he was talking to his wife, and he first of all, he got a phone call from one of his NBA friends, and he's on the phone. And he's like, "Yeah, bro, all this and jive talk and doing all this," and he hangs up the phone, and his wife says, "We need to join a country club." And he says, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I just retired from the NBA. I'm not made of money." She said, "If you hang out and you talk like that, you're going to continue being like that. Now you need to be around people who are business people, and we need to go join a country club." And so they did, and the rest is history. And now he's an unbelievably successful person because of the 5 people he spends the most time with, and because he listened to his wife.
Yes, that's a very important one. Hope everyone takes heed of that.
No doubt. And you've got a great one.
Yes.
And that's part of the reason, too, that I did come here. That's part of the reason, because honestly, I really I couldn't believe that it could be as good as you said it was until I got here. But I've known your wife for a lot longer than I've known you. We've been on a committee together at GAR for ever and ever and ever. And I thought, there's no way Morgan would marry a man that's not a great guy. Mm-hmm. So, and she did.
I got really, really lucky is what happened. She makes me better every day.
That's awesome.
So, all right, let's get back into you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No more about Morgan and me. Okay, so let's talk about overcoming, hard things in the world. So as we know, and we've been talking about this inside of the Keller Williams office, and I think it's been all over the news. Many people are aware there are economic changes that are happening currently in the real estate industry, as well as economically as a whole across America. So, there are people that will hit hard times. I'm sure just as myself and yourself and anyone else, we can all say that we've been through very tough times before. Let's talk about overcoming that. Give us a time in your life. Let's talk through a time in your life where you felt, things are coming to an end, or it's really too tough for me right now. How do you overcome that? What's the first step for you, and how do we move through that?
I would say it was when I owned my RE/MAX, I had five brokers leave my office together, and they opened an R1, and we're all still friends today. I don't want to say anything negative about anyone, but what that meant to me as a business owner was $5,000 a month was walking out the door, not to mention lifetime friendships, and it was probably one of the hardest hits I can remember in my adult life. And so when it all came, I kind of knew, I did know. And when it all came out, that was on a Friday. And they said, okay, we're going to pull our licenses and move out this weekend. I said, okay. So that weekend I went and bought pizzas for them and had them at the office, texted them all. I didn't go when they were there. I gave them their privacy, but I bought pizzas for them all. I said, I know moving is stressful. Please enjoy, because burning bridges is not a good idea ever, no matter what, no matter how you're feeling, you don't do that. So that was step one, was to put the public face on for them. And number two, very, very personal, but I was working out every single day. And I can remember working out and just crying, like doing push-ups and tears just hitting the mat that I was doing push-ups on. But I didn't stop. That's what I want to tell you. When you're going through tough times, keep going, right? I've heard it said, when you're going through hell, keep going. There's also a very interesting thing in Colorado. Buffalo and cow are together, which is the only state that it's like that. When a storm is coming, the buffalo will see the storm and they will run toward it full force. And the cow will try and go away the other way. So what happens is the buffalo go through it a lot quicker. They're done. The cows have to endure the entire storm as it goes past them. So that would be my advice is no matter what you feel like doing, do what you should do every day.
How do we know what we should do?
Get a coach.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes I think that the weight of, what we do and who we surround ourselves with, for me personally with my wife, I felt for the longest time like I had to do certain things to be able to support her and make sure that the family was going to be okay, right? I'm the breadwinner, the male in the family. It's like old traditional values. And I think that I based decisions off of that were probably wrong. They might not have been, in the right light. They might not have been the right thing to do in that moment. What advice do you have as far as, if we feel like we're marching towards something and we're going to say, okay, let's keep going, when's the time to pull the plug?
That's a good question. And it's going to vary depending on, we would have to do a whole coaching session to really kind of figure out, is it the right time? Is it not the right time? However, it's never, ever, ever, ever the right time to not work out every day, to not eat right every day. The basic things that we do to not get a good night's sleep, those things are guaranteed to make whatever you're going through worse, right? Like you're upset about this, so I'm just going to go get drunk. Well, then you're going to get a DUI, or you're going to kill somebody, or you're going to hurt. Call somebody. The other thing is not just get a coach, because I will admit I have not submitted to a coach until, I don't know, it's probably been in the last 5 years that I've submitted to an actual one-on-one coach. But ever since those Tony Robbins CDs or tapes that I had that my ex-husband had, I have constantly been filling my mind with good, because you need, and this is a psychologist that has said this, you need 7 positive things to counteract 1 negative. How negative is the world right now? Turn off your TV, stop watching television, stop watching the news. The day that you can write a check, when you see that a family's house burned down and they had no insurance and there's nothing they could do, and you can write a check and fix it, fine, turn on the news. But until you can do something about it, why would you simmer in all that negativity? It's not going to do anything but trip you up.
Yeah. So recently we all read a book, The Happiness Advantage.
Yes.
Right? Tell us a little bit about how, I saw a lot of commonality in my life already with that book. Tell us a little bit about how that fit into your world.
Gosh, it was so incredible. The Happiness Advantage was written by a guy who was from Waco, Texas, which is where I grew up. And he went to Harvard, never thought he would go to Harvard. And he did all this incredible study on happiness. I would say one of the studies in that book that I don't know, like you said, there's so many commonalities already. I don't know that it changed my life, but it validated my life, because the things he said are the things that I do, and I truly believe in. They had a researcher in the hallways of an ICU. The researcher was not allowed to go into the patient rooms, but they were in the hallway in the ICU, and every person that would walk by, they'd just smile. That's it. That's all they did. And the patient care went through the roof. All of the other things happened. And so I think The Happiness Advantage, every single person should read it. The world would be a much better place if everyone would read it. It proves that it's not, I will be happy when I get successful, that if you're happy and when you're happy, the success will just come every time. Mm-hmm. It's really a cool book.
Yeah, absolutely. So where did you see that kind of show up in your world on a day-to-day basis?
Which part?
Any part of the Happiness Advantage. I know that they have tactics in there, for example, like sending gratitude texts in the morning to at least 3 people, right? And doing those kind of things. What kind of things did you see that you were already doing that? Because obviously success has followed you. A lot of times whenever we talk, you say that if it's not coming to you, you're not really going out and chasing it. You're kind of building this and attracting the success inside of your world. So obviously there's probably some things that were correlated between that and the Happiness Advantage. So what things did you see in your world?
Well, I would say one of my favorite things, the only thing in my Miracle Morning, so Miracle Morning is 6 things. They're designed for 10 minutes each, so you could do it all in an hour. One of them is gratitude. The only thing that I do in my Miracle Morning that could be considered work, but I don't consider it work, is I write my notes. And so I write at least 5 notes a day. Right now I'm having to up it a little bit because I got a little behind, but I write at least 5 notes a day. And those notes, when I finish writing that note and I have that stack of notes that gets to get mailed out, I've already won the day. I think about the person who's going to receive that note, and it's going to make their day, and it's going to make their life better. And so I would say that's a very good correlation to the sending somebody texts. Mm-hmm. And it did help me, him having that idea. I don't do it regularly. It's not, but I do a much better job of just out of the blue when I think, wow, I really appreciate Jake, just shoot you a text right then. Mm-hmm. So I think that helped me.
Awesome. Yeah, it's kind of like small successes throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we move forward into the economic changes that are happening inside of our world, into changes in culture within our world, all of those kind of things, what are you doing differently? What are you going to change?
First thing is to tighten the belt, to go through and see, are there subscriptions that I have that I'm not even using? Where can we cut things? I don't want that to sound like I'm afraid of a market crash, because I am not at all. I want to make it really clear to the camera. This is mid-2022. We are not going to have a crash. Prices of homes are not going to go down, I would say, at all. And I believe they're going to continue to go up at least until the end of 2023, but I don't have a crystal ball. But we are going into a recession. That's just, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're going into a recession. So what do you do in a recession? You look for ways to buy it in bulk. It's different because I'm in real estate. So it's such a different world. In real estate, when you're as established as I am, if you have a money problem, you just go sell more houses. And it's not hard to do for me. So I don't know that I can relate to someone who has a 9-to-5 job, and no matter what they do, mm-hmm. this is how much money I'm going to bring home no matter what I do. So your only option in unless you're willing to change that and come into real estate. Call me if you're interested. I'll hook you up with free education. But your only option is to cut your expenses, maybe get a roommate, just think, what could you do? Could you do a side hustle to make some money? Could you do something online? Be really careful though. Don't spend money that you don't have for a get-rich-quick scheme, because they don't exist. Nothing is for free. You cannot bring in, unless you're stealing or you're a thief or you're doing something really wrong, you cannot bring in more money than the amount of service you put out in life. And I truly believe that.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take a dollar to make a dollar.
Right.
Right? Number one on the economic fundamentals is that you lead with revenue, not with expense. So that's really interesting to me. So there's only two ways to be able to change your life, right, in any kind of economic shift, and that would be in either go make more money or cut your expenses. Mm-hmm. Or get really creative. So let's talk about creativity, really. You said, taking on a roommate or, figuring out some sort of ways like that. What ways do you see that Casa Dream Team is going to be creative in the future?
Creative about saving money. Well, I would say,
well, really about anything.
I think Casa Dream Team is going in a direction of bringing in more, mm-hmm. like of increase. Well, it's halfway through the year, and we've already done more this year than we did all of last year. So I consider that's happening, and because we have such an amazing marketing director, it's happening. It's going to expand, and it's going to go incredibly well.
Mm-hmm. How else are you getting creative? How are you getting creative in your personal life?
I'm taking a lot more vacations than I ever have before. And I have been such a driver. I've worked full-time since I was 13 years old. Never, ever not worked full-time, except for that little bitty time after I lost my timeshare job until I got into real estate. But so vacations for me is I'm focusing because of Keller Williams, and this goes back to I can't really believe it's that good before I got here. Keller Williams is God, family, business. And that's how I've been treated. I've been through an unbelievable amount since I've been here. And if everything you said wasn't true, I would have discovered that probably about the third time I had someone close to me die, and you guys sent me flowers and said, take all the time that you need, right? So you really can believe if you ever do consider coming to this office specifically. I can't speak for all of them because I don't work in all of them, but I work with people in all of them. It's the real deal.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like the idea of, becoming very creative and also, taking more vacation time, taking more time for yourself. I find that I'm actually much more productive if I'm in motion. So if I'm traveling, they always say, if you really want to get busy, take a vacation, because you get real busy right before your vacation. If I'm busy, it's because I'm in motion. I'm traveling to different places. I'm going to conferences. I'm doing those things because my timelines get shortened, and all of a sudden my priorities become very clear. So I think that's very interesting. Yeah. All right. That's all the questions I have.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jake. We really appreciate you taking your time to interview me.
Of course.
All right.
Thank you. I had a whole bunch of fun today.
Yeah, it was very cool. So think your way to an epic life. It's really possible. I'm living proof. So thanks, guys. Bye.